is a ReTV documentary. Back at it again with another series. Don't worry, Crocodile Tears fans, I still have plenty of videos to make in that series, but I thought I'd add another series to the mix. Murder mysteries with CCTV clues. Not in all of these stories has murder been confirmed. Some of these stories are disappearances that remain unsolved. Some of these stories, the murderer has been caught on camera. But in all of these stories, there is CCTV or other video evidence leaving us valuable clues. If you're a ReTV supporter and you are up to date on all 10 episodes of the first series on my website, absolutely none of these cases will be a mystery to you anymore. But let's humour everyone else with the official stories on each of these cases. Before we get into it, if you haven't watched the trailer for my exclusive series on my website yet, you won't know that Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus have the same face. Not only that, their parents also have the same faces. Check out the 20-minute trailer on my exclusive series if you want to know why. I have many episodes planned for this series, but I wanted to start with the 5 stories that I remember the most. Elisa Lam.
So right now we're asking your help
to see if anyone recognizes 21-year-old Elisa Lam. Her worried parents flew in from Vancouver, British Columbia, and stood behind LAPD detectives who described Lam's disappearance as suspicious and may suggest foul play.
She was in regular contact with her parents, and up until 6 days ago.
The Canadian tourist was traveling alone. On January 28th, after a visit to San Diego, Lam checked into this upscale youth hostel, part of the Cecil Hotel on Main Street in downtown LA. According to the hotel manager, the woman was booked for 4 nights. Lam was last seen in the lobby in the late hours of the 31st.
The last people to see her were the staff at the hotel, and that's it.
And according to hotel employees, nothing seems suspicious. However, Lam, who was supposed to check out the next morning, never did. When detectives were asked about her cell phone and other belongings.
I don't want to talk about the cell phone right now very much. We have some of her property.
Detectives say the woman was traveling California by bus and train. Santa Cruz was going to be the next stop. According to investigators, the woman has no history of this kind of behavior, although sources tell KTLA there are concerns about her mental state. Police hope by releasing her picture, it will generate leads into where this young woman might be.
We're seeking to get this photo out so we can find Elisa.
Elisa Lam was apparently a 21-year-old Chinese-Canadian student found dead in a water tank on top of a hotel in downtown LA near the notorious Skid Row. Her body was found by a hotel maintenance worker, naked alongside her clothes, on the 19th of February 2013 after complaints from guests of problems with the water. She was reported missing earlier in the month and had possibly been dead since the 31st of January 2013. Wiki states that her disappearance had been widely reported and the interest had increased 5 days prior to her body being discovered due to the LAPD releasing footage of the last time she was known to have been seen on the day of her disappearance from the elevator CCTV camera. In the footage, she is seen exiting and re-entering the elevator, talking and gesturing in the hallway outside the elevator, and sometimes seeming to hide within the elevator, which itself seems to be malfunctioning. The video went viral on the internet, with many viewers reporting that they found it unsettling, and explanations ranged from claims of paranormal involvement to bipolar disorder, which she apparently had. It has also been argued that the CCTV footage was altered prior to its release. The death was initially recorded as an accident, and 3 days later the paperwork was changed to could not be determined. Elisa's real name was reportedly Lam Ho Yi. In Chinese culture, the family name comes first, Lam being the family name. Her chosen English name was Elisa, so in Chinese culture, that would be Lam Elisa. Now, why does that stick out to me so much? Apparently, at the time of Elisa's disappearance, during the time that Elisa was now believed to be in the water tank, there was apparently an outbreak of tuberculosis on Skid Row, right where the hotel is located. Why is that important? There is a test for TB called, now I can't pronounce this, but we'll give it a try, lipoarabinomannan, who knows, enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, for short, Lam Elisa. And apparently, a water tank would be the perfect incubation environment for TB. I don't know about you, but I don't believe in coincidences. What a massive coincidence it was to have someone named Lam Elisa inside a water tank, the perfect incubation environment for TB, in the very area that they had an outbreak of TB at the exact same time of that TB outbreak, with the same name as the TB test. Wow, what a coincidence. Other people have speculated that the LAPD had something to do with the disappearance of Elisa, especially as it has been proven that the CCTV footage released by the LAPD had been slowed down and a portion of the footage missing. Elisa appears to be acting very strange in the footage. Strange movements, strange hand signals. Was she drugged and talking to her killer out of view of the camera? Was she having some kind of mental breakdown? Was she playing the Japanese elevator game and transported to another dimension? The hotel in which she was staying was a famous hotel. Well, actually, it was an infamous hotel. The hotel has a rather dark history, with many suicides and deaths occurring there. Even murdered and bisected actress Elizabeth Short, known as the Black Dahlia, was reported to have been seen in the hotel in the days prior to her murder. No less than 2 serial killers, Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger, reportedly lived in the hotel over the years. This was the very first YouTube series I ever made, including mobile phone footage of the rooftop where the water tank is located, and a body language analysis video of Elisa's behaviour in the CCTV footage, and I think you'll be surprised by the results. Check out the link in the description for the playlist to this series. But as it was the first series I made, I did make a lot of mistakes with editing, and the voiceover, wow, is pretty shit. But it's still the best series you're going to find on this case. So I intend to remake this series, but check back for updates.
The body of a Canadian woman who was missing in LA has now been found. Elisa Lam disappeared 3 weeks ago.
Yesterday, her body was found inside a water tank on top of the hotel where she had been staying. CTV's Morella Fernandez is here, and she's been following this story. What more do we know about the circumstances of what happened to her?
Yeah, there are hotel visitors. Someone complained about low water pressure. Someone had previously complained about flooding on the 4th floor of the hotel. That led a maintenance worker up to the roof yesterday to check out the water tanks. There are several on the roof, as you will see. And that's when the body of 21-year-old Elisa Lam from Vancouver was discovered. Police, firefighters had to go in. It's a very tight spot. You can see when you get to the visuals, you'll see it's a very tight spot between the water tanks. So they really had a lot of trouble trying to get her out of there. Take a listen to what firefighters had to say about removing the body.
Firefighters use their specialized tools to be able to cut the sides of the tank, remove the metal so they could as carefully remove the body for the coroner's office to conduct their investigation.
It was later yesterday that the coroner positively ID'd Elisa Lam from the markings apparently on her body. Dan and Jackie.
It's a very sad and also grisly set of circumstances here, and especially the way the body was found. What about just, we showed some video of her in the elevator as well. What do we know about what may have happened here?
Let's pull up the timeline and we'll show you sort of a little bit about what we know about her last days. So she went to California at the end of January 26th. She was traveling alone and apparently had done this before. January 31st was the last time she was seen at her hotel in downtown Los Angeles at a place called the Cecil Hotel, seen by a staff member there. February 1st is when that recorded video of her in the elevator acting very strangely was released. That was from February 1st. And then, of course, February 19th, yesterday, her body was found in the hotel.
Guess what? Not only did this channel hit 1 million views a few days ago, almost 12 million watch time minutes, but I've only gone and got another sponsor for this little video right here. I have an obsession with shining my jewellery, so much so that I've lost my diamond ring twice now. The second time, a few weeks ago, I was shining my jewellery in my car, as you do. I put the ring in my lap and forgot about it as I shined my watch. I got out of the car and I lost the ring. I bought the ring as an investment a few years ago as it needed to be reclawed and the person who owned it didn't want to do it. So it had no sentimental value to me. So the second time I lost it, I wasn't too worried about the ring. I was just annoyed that I hadn't sold it before I lost it again, especially as I'd spent money reclawing it. I went back to where I found it a couple of days later and luckily it was on the floor in the car park. So I contacted Sell Steel Diamond, the third generation family run diamond wholesaler that you can trust. I certainly did. Whether you're selling unwanted high quality diamond jewellery or buying diamonds wholesale, you really should make Sell Steel Diamond your first stop. Sell Steel will buy your high quality diamonds and jewellery for cash, offering the best prices in 4 simple steps. Step 1, submit your diamond details on their website. Step 2, they will email you a valuation of your diamond. Step 3, send your diamond by special delivery insured up to $2,500, which I did, or bring it into the offices to view. Step 4, cash transferred to your bank within minutes of you signing the paperwork. Located in the heart of Hatton Garden in London, which is the UK's diamond hub, they have clients and suppliers right across the globe. Go check out their website now. What are you waiting for? I just told you to check it out. But make sure you come back. John Lang. Here on YouTube is a channel with now over 2.1 million views called Lang Marine. On this channel are 17 videos posted between March of 2015 and January of 2016. On the 21st of March 2015, the first video was posted. This video was titled Fresno LE Harassment, Ford Crew Cab that stalked me at my residence numerous times. The first paragraph in the description for this video reads, Fresno LE Harassment, Ford Crew Cab that stalked me at my residence numerous times on the 13th of December 2014. This truck, belonging to Fresno Sheriff personnel, was stalking me that Saturday morning on the 13th of December 2014. Truck is visible in time frames 14:02:38 and 14:08:00. 5 minutes after this incident, I received a hang-up call from this number, 559-389-0357. The owner of this phone number is a member of the Fresno Sheriff's Office. The second paragraph in the description reads, I am being targeted by multiple City of Fresno departments and the Fresno Sheriff's Office for comments I made on the Fresno Bee from 2009 to 2013. Comments that were critical of the way Fresno PD and Fresno Fire utilized their budgets. My discus handle during that time was John21. Posters on the Fresno Bee using the then discus comment system were supposed to be anonymous. However, Fresno Bee employee Jody Murray shared Fresno Bee log data and IP address information with Jared L. McCormick, a Fresno sheriff sergeant, who then used the Fresno Bee provided information to retrieve the name and address information in order to maliciously track down, stalk, and harass Fresno Bee comment posters, including myself. McCormick's discus handle on the Bee was Hiker Dude 1967. I notified Jim Boren, the then Fresno Bee editor, via email on 2 occasions in 2013 regarding an employee at the Bee who was sharing website IP and log data of Fresno Bee commenters with Fresno PD and Fresno Sheriff personnel. I explained in these emails that as a result of Jody Murray's nefarious efforts, Fresno Bee commenters were subsequently stalked and harassed by Fresno law enforcement. I never received a reply from Mr. Boren on either occasion. However, consequently, I have been made a constant target of harassment, intimidation, and worse, by multiple City of Fresno departments and the Fresno Sheriff's Office. The second video was uploaded on the same day, entitled Fresno LE Conditioning My Dogs and Neighbors' Dogs at 11:30 p.m. The first paragraph in the description for this video reads, Fresno Sheriff personnel and canine conditioning my dogs and neighbors' dogs for submission and dominance so they may illegally access my home and property when I am not home. Fresno PD fails to fully investigate my complaint on this incident, which I fully detailed in my Fresno PD Internal Affairs complaint. The third and final video that this account posted on that day was titled 20-minute gap in my Palco front camera. Remote Inside Hack by Fresno LE. Less than a week after these videos were posted, the then Fresno Deputy Police Chief Keith Foster and 5 others were arrested on drug charges.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been briefed in detail by the FBI as well as the U.S. Attorney and ATF regarding the details of this case, and I really am at a loss for words.
The next video came nearly a month later, on the 16th of April 2015, and was titled Thermal Imaging Threat and Intimidation by Fresno Law Enforcement. Between the 8th of May 2015 and the 17th of January 2016, he posted multiple videos and social media posts showing what he claimed to be footage of Fresno LE stalking and harassing him. He even claimed that his new neighbours were planted to distract him while Fresno LE illegally gained access to his home and tried to set him up for multiple crimes that he did not commit. In the early hours of the 14th of July 2016, a Facebook account in the name of John Lang wrote the following post. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. If anything happens to me in the next day or two, it will be the result of Fresno PD, my neighbour, and an employee at my job, Payless Brakes and Tyres on Blackstone. The next day, on the 15th of January 2016, at 6:41 p.m, he wrote a Facebook post to Corin Hoggard of ABC 30 Action News. Corin, you want some news? Corrupt Fresno cops are going to try and kill me this weekend, possibly tonight. This is no joke. Please follow up on my story regardless of what happens or what version the cops and Fresno Bee come up with. Please check out www.jodymurray.com and my YouTube site. Thank you. The next day at 7:33 p.m, he made another Facebook post linking his final video. The post reads, If I turn up missing or dead tomorrow, remember this van. I think I seen a couple of guys sneak out the side door and into a building when I was parked in the carport this afternoon. I've been causing the city of Fresno a lot of problems recently, which I now regret. Sign on the door said guarantee carpet cleaning Fresno. And at 10:48 that night he posted, anyone want to crash at my pad tonight? Must be a legal gun owner. I think the bad guys may come and get me tonight. And somebody responded, what the fuck? And he responded with 4 comments. Totally serious. Any serious patriots out there? I've seen a couple of guys sneak in the vacant building next to me. I've been under some threats recently because of my activism lately.
51-year-old John Lang was found barricaded inside his burning home with stab wounds back in January. He later died at a hospital. Investigators called his death suspicious because it appeared someone intentionally set the fire at the Van Ness home. The coroner later determined the wounds were self-inflicted. Prior to his death, Lang gained social media attention by posting that he feared Fresno police were trying to kill him.
If you haven't seen it yet, I have covered this case in a little more detail. Check out the link in the description to see more about John Lang and the Fresno LE. Brian Schaefer.
Tonight, a story about a missing person where fate seems unusually cruel. Less than 1 month after an Ohio man lost his wife to a deadly disease, his son mysteriously disappeared. Brian Schaefer, a medical student, was last seen after a night out with friends. Here's Rob Stafford.
On a spring night, the city of Columbus reflects off the Olentangy River as students at Ohio State reflect on the end of another school year. There's the usual stress of final exams, but this year on this campus, something unusual: fear and foreboding.
You think something terrible happened? I truly do.
It's a mystery with tantalizing clues on tape. 1 minute, this young man was a grainy image on a surveillance video. The next minute, he was gone, and police are baffled.
All the tips that we've received thus far has turned into nothing.
And one student is living a nightmare until another student is found.
I want him home. You know, I want to see him every day.
She's talking about 27-year-old Brian Schaefer, a second-year medical student who seemed to have everything going for him. Good looks, good grades, and a girlfriend he adored. Awesome and amazing is how he described Alexis Wagoner on his MySpace profile. And she says the same about him.
It's brilliant. He's handsome, he's sweet and loyal and caring.
Like Brian, Alexis is in second-year med school. Like Brian, she's super smart and striking. The two were inseparable. They'd planned a trip to Florida for spring break, and they had even bigger plans.
Are you convinced he's the guy?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, pretty much since day one, I really thought of him as kind of the love of my life.
Want to get married?
Yeah.
Then, one spring night, Brian vanished.
When referring to Brian Schaefer, Wikipedia states that he was, and not is, an American medical student at Ohio State University. On the night of the 31st of March 2006, Brian Schaefer went out with friends to celebrate the beginning of spring break. Later, he was separated from them, and they assumed that he had gone home. However, a security camera near the entrance to a Columbus bar recorded him briefly talking to 2 women just before 2 a.m. on the 1st of April, and then apparently re-entering the bar without any evidence of him leaving the area. Schaefer has not been seen or heard from since. The case has received national media attention. Brian Schaefer's disappearance has been especially puzzling to investigators since there was no other publicly accessible entrance or exit to the bar at the time. It's as if he disappeared inside the bar. Columbus police have several theories about what happened. Some interest and suspicion has been directed at a friend of Schaefer's who accompanied him that night, but who has refused to take lie detector tests regarding the incident. While foul play has been suspected, including the possible involvement of the purported smiley-faced serial killer, it has also been speculated that he might be alive and living somewhere else under a new identity. The 31st of March 2006 was a Friday and classes ended for spring break the next week. Brian Schaefer and his father Randy celebrated the occasion by going out for a steak dinner together earlier that evening. Brian's father noted that he seemed exhausted from having pulled all-nighters earlier in the week, cramming for some important upcoming exams. He did not think Brian should go out with his friend, William Florence, known as Clint, later that night as he planned to do, but did not express his reservations to Brian. At 9 p.m, Brian met Clint at the Ugly Tuna Saloon, a bar in the South Campus Gateway complex on High Street in Columbus. An hour later, Brian called his girlfriend Alexis Wagner, who had returned to her home in Toledo to visit her family before she and Brian were due to depart for Miami. Brian and Clint went bar hopping, visiting several other drinking establishments and working their way down to the Arena District. At each stop, the two had 1 shot each of hard liquor, according to Clint. After midnight, Brian and Clint met Meredith Reed, a friend of Clint, in the short north. Meredith gave them a ride back to the Ugly Tuna Saloon where they had started the night and joined them there for one last round. While the three were there, Brian separated from his companions. Clint and Meredith attempted to find Brian and repeatedly called him. They left with other patrons when the bar closed at 2 a.m, waiting outside for him. When he was not among the departing crowd, they assumed he had gone back to his apartment without letting them know. Alexis and Brian's father both tried to call him later that weekend, but he did not answer. On Monday morning, he missed the flight to Miami he and Alexis had scheduled long before. He was then reported missing to the Columbus police. The police began their search for Brian at the Ugly Tuna Saloon, the bar where he had last been seen. They reviewed the bar's CCTV footage, which showed Brian, Clint, and Meredith going up an escalator to the bar's main entrance at 1:15 a.m. Brian was seen outside of the bar at 1:55 a.m, talking briefly with 2 young women and saying goodbye, then moving off camera in the direction of the bar, apparently to re-enter. The camera did not record him leaving shortly afterwards when the Ugly Tuna Saloon closed. That was the last time he was seen. It was possible, investigators realised, that Brian could have changed his clothes in the bar or put on a hat and kept his head down, hiding his face from the camera. The cameras might also have missed Brian. One panned across the area constantly and the other was operated manually. He might have also left the building by another route. However, the building's only other exit, a service door not generally used by the public, opened at the time onto a construction site that officers believed would have been difficult to walk through while sober, much less intoxicated, as Brian likely was at the time. It doesn't mean it's impossible though. Since Columbus has the most security cameras of any city in Ohio, more than Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Toledo combined, officers next looked at the footage from other bars to see if cameras there could explain how Brian had left the Ugly Tuna Saloon. However, footage from cameras at 3 other nearby bars showed no trace of him. The search began to fan out from the Ugly Tuna Saloon, with officers, sometimes accompanied by police dogs, looking closely in the street, inspecting dumpsters and other waste containers, and asking residents if they'd seen Brian. Police even persuaded the city of Columbus to let them into the sewer system and search there. No useful information was uncovered. His car was still parked outside his apartment 6 blocks away from the bar. After searching miles away from the Ugly Tuna Saloon in every direction, police began to consider other possibilities besides an accident or foul play. Since Brian's mother had recently died, it was speculated that he had gone away temporarily to grieve in solitude. Yet his disappearance proved permanent. No evident reasons appeared for him voluntarily disappearing. Those who had seen Brian that evening, including his father, were asked to take a lie detector test. Randy and Meredith passed theirs, as did reportedly all others, while Clint refused. The two women Brian had last been seen talking to were later identified. They said in 2009 that they'd never been asked to take one themselves. Alexis called Brian's phone every evening before going to bed for a long time after the disappearance. Usually it went to voicemail, but one night in September it actually rang 3 times. She wrote on her MySpace page, "I kept calling it to hear purely because it was one of the best sounds I'd ever heard, even if no one picked up." Singular, Brian's wireless provider, said what Alexis heard may have been due to a computer glitch. A ping from the phone was detected at a cell tower in Hillard, 14 miles or 23 kilometers northwest of Columbus. The police received many tips, none of which resulted in any breakthrough in the case. At a Pearl Jam concert later that year in Cincinnati, lead singer Eddie Vedder took time between songs to ask for tips in Brian's disappearance, but none of those were useful either. That will probably be an interesting fact to my exclusive subscribers. Possible sightings in Michigan, Texas, and even Sweden were investigated. His father, Randy, who had recently suffered the death of his wife, continued to search for his son on his own. A psychic he consulted told him Brian's body was in water near a bridge pier. He and Derek, Brian's younger brother, along with some other citizens who had become interested in the case, bought waders and spent much of their free time along the shores of the river, which flows through Columbus adjacent to the campus, searching in vain for the body near bridges. This possibility also led police to briefly consider the heavily disputed Smiley face murder theory. Brian, under this theory, would be the purported serial killer's only victim whose body had not yet been found. Columbus police eventually rejected any connection to the alleged killer in Schaefer's case, following the lead of most law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, that have looked into it. In September of 2008, during a heavy windstorm, Randy Schaefer was out in the yard of his Baltimore home clearing debris. A branch blew off from a nearby tree and fatally struck him. Neighbors found his body the next morning and called police. After his obituary ran online, a condolence book was posted. One of the signatures in it said, "To Dad, love Brian, US Virgin Islands." This suggested Brian might have left Columbus for a new life elsewhere. However, upon further investigation, the note was found to have been posted from a computer accessible to the public in Franklin County. It was determined to be a hoax.
Brian was last seen in this Columbus neighborhood, not far from the Ohio State campus. It was early in the morning on Saturday, April 1st. Brian had been out bar hopping with a friend from school. The evening began about 9 p.m. when Brian met up with his friend Clint Florence. The two were former roommates and drinking buddies. That Friday was supposed to be just another night out, as Clint told MSNBC's Rita Cosby.
Me and Brian always went out. There's nothing new. Sat down, opened the tab, and, had 3, 4, 5 shots of liquor.
Alexis, visiting her family for the weekend, was checking in by phone and called Brian at 10 p.m. Did he sound at all concerned when you talked with him Friday night?
Nope.
He wasn't worried on the phone?
Nope.
Did he sound down, depressed in any way?
He sounded fine.
After Brian and Alexis spoke, Clint told the police that he and Brian walked to some more bars and downed some more shots, and then, with a friend of Clint's in tow, ended the night at the bar where they'd started. This surveillance tape shows them at 1:15 a.m. coming up the escalator to the bar. That's Brian leaning on the handrail. Once inside, they ran into a couple of young women Clint knew.
And Brian was doing his usual thing and was talking to those two girls.
At 1:55 a.m., Brian made his final appearance on the video. He was outside the bar chatting with the young women. Then he walked out of frame and disappeared. Police say it appears he went back into the bar. Minutes later, Clint and his friend got ready to go.
It was closing time about 2:10, 2 o'clock, and Brian was nowhere to be seen.
They told police they called Brian's cell and got no answer, even checked the bathroom, but no luck. So they left without him. Saturday passed without a word from Brian. By Sunday morning, Alexis was growing more and more concerned. She hadn't talked to Brian since that Friday night call, and they were due to leave for Florida the next morning, and he still wasn't answering his cell.
I was really scared.
Late that night, Alexis says she began what would become a ritual, going to Brian's apartment to see if by some miracle he'd come home. Inside, she broke down. Since then, she says she's cried millions of tears.
I came here every single day the first few weeks and just, laid here in the middle of his bed and just sobbed.
5 weeks after Brian disappeared and after an intensive investigation, Columbus police still have no idea where Brian could be. Sergeant John Hurst is the lead investigator.
Any sign he's used his credit cards?
No, there's no sign of credit card usage.
Cell phone?
No cell phone usage.
Buses, airplanes?
Nothing.
One part of the mystery is how Brian left the building without being caught on tape. Both bar exits are covered by cameras, as is the escalator that leads to the street. Outside the bar, out of camera view, are stairs and an elevator that lead to the first floor. Once on the first floor, the only way out, without being seen on tape, would be through a service exit that leads to a construction site with doors to the street. But why would Brian go that way?
There's no reason for anybody to want to go out that area. It's heavily under construction and would be difficult sober.
Police say it's possible that because Brian was drinking heavily that night, he may have been vulnerable to foul play. If Brian tried to walk back to his apartment half a dozen blocks away, he would have been an easy target. Police say there's a significant amount of crime in that neighborhood. In the meantime, Brian's father, Randy, is desperate to know what happened to his son.
What has been the toughest moment for you?
Just not knowing or understanding what, why, where, how. I mean, there's just nothing that really fits.
This ordeal has been even more devastating for Randy because just 4 weeks before Brian disappeared, his wife of nearly 29 years, Brian's mother, died of cancer.
I just don't understand why I would have to go through so much.
Brian spent that last night before he went out with his friends, consoling his dad.
He was concerned about me. He was going to go out drinking that night earlier. And he told them, guys, I have to be there for my dad,
So he waited to go out that night?
Because he wanted to be with me.
Now his father would give anything to be with him.
Somebody out there has to know something. No matter how small or whatever it may be, please don't be afraid to call. Please help me find my son.
Rebecca Coryum.
In March of this year, a constituent of mine, 24-year-old Rebecca Coryum, disappeared whilst working for a British employment agency on a Bahamian-registered, American-based Disney cruise ship in international waters off the coast of Mexico. Rebecca was living her dream, working as a member of the youth staff on the cruise ship Disney Wonder.
On the left, pictured with her sister, this is 24-year-old Rebecca Coryum, a girl from Chester seeing the world and now lost at sea 5,000 miles from home. She was working on the family cruise ship the Disney Wonder as a youth activities coordinator when she vanished 3 days into a week-long trip. The ship set sail from Los Angeles on Sunday, March the 22nd for the Mexican Riviera. The alarm was raised last Tuesday when she failed to turn up for her shift. The following day, the vessel docked in Puerto Vallarta, and the Mexican Navy and US Coast Guard were deployed to search the seas. Despite onboard inspections and alerts to the 3,000 passengers, the ship returned to LA yesterday without Rebecca. Her parents and cousin were there.
Just very, very painful. And the thought of not seeing her again, I don't know. It's frightening to think about it, really.
We just don't know what happened to her, do we? That's the worst.
The ship is registered in the Bahamas, so police there are heading the investigation, which will include scouring CCTV footage. Rebecca's parents are now to fly back to the UK with their daughter's possessions, but as yet, no answers.
At 5:45 a.m, early on the morning of the 22nd of March 2011, 24-year-old Rebecca Coryum, a British crew member on the cruise ship Disney Wonder, was captured by CCTV in the crew lounge having a phone conversation that appeared to be causing her some emotional difficulty. Several hours later, she missed the beginning of her work shift and could not be located anywhere aboard the ship, then off the Pacific coast of Mexico. Her disappearance was the first such incident in the history of Disney Cruise Line. I have a hard time believing that. Coryum's disappearance remains under investigation, and her whereabouts since the phone conversation has not been established. Her parents have been critical of Disney's handling of the investigation, believing the company knows more than it claims to and has been more interested in avoiding unfavourable publicity than cooperating with investigators. Her family settled a lawsuit against Disney out of court in 2016. The Coryum family have been supported by British government officials who have instituted policies allowing for more comprehensive investigations of such incidents in the future, and advocates for the relatives of many other crew and passengers who have been reported missing from cruise ships over the last decade. On the 21st of March 2011, the day the ship left Los Angeles, she sent what would be her last message to her parents via Facebook, saying that she would call the next day. Her mother grew concerned when, following her reply, 12 hours went by without a response. At 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time that morning on the Wonder off the coast of Mexico, Coryum had missed the start of her shift. She was not in her room or anywhere else on the ship, and she did not respond to pages over the ship's public address system. A review of CCTV footage found one appearance of her, time-stamped 5:45 a.m. An early, unverified account, purportedly from another crew member, claimed she had gone overboard at 3 a.m., nearly 3 hours earlier. In the video, Coryum is talking on one of the ship's internal phones in a crew area. She appears distraught. A young man walks up to her and appears to ask if everything is all right. Her mouth can apparently be clearly read to be saying, "Yeah, fine," after which she hangs up. She then walks away, pushing her hair back and putting her hands in her back pockets, mannerisms her parents say were common for her. There has been no record of her presence anywhere since then. The crew searched the ship for her. Ships of the US Coast Guard and Mexican Navy searched international waters through which the Wonder had been sailing during the hours in which Coryum could have gone overboard, if that's what had occurred. They found nothing. Since the Wonder is registered in the Bahamas, a detective from the Royal Bahamas Police Force, RBPF, flew to the ship to investigate once it had returned to Los Angeles, 3 days after the disappearance. He was reported to have undertaken several days of onboard investigations. Mike and Anna Maria Coryum, Rebecca's parents, were flown out from England to meet the ship when it returned. They met the detective and said he told them that he had spent only 1 day on board investigating before flying back home. The detective also told them that he had interviewed only a few crew members and absolutely none of the passengers.
When the Disney cruise ship Wonder returned from a 7-day Mexican cruise early Sunday morning, it docked in the port of LA with one of its crew members missing. Cruise passengers were aware of Coryum's disappearance and the efforts to locate her.
They told us over the loudspeakers several times that they were looking for her.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden they said they still hadn't found her.
But we didn't notice anybody panicking or, frantically going in and out of rooms or...
I actually didn't even notice. I didn't even notice the search. I mean, it was, they said that they were searching, but it was nothing obvious.
But one passenger heard something much more ominous.
I talked to one of the people that pick up. They said that
They found her shoes and her belongings, and they have a feeling that she might have suicided. Very quiet woman.
The Coryums claimed that Disney kept them in a car with blacked-out windows and brought them on board via a little-used side entrance after all the passengers had disembarked. The Wonder's captain gave his condolences and expressed his theory that Rebecca had been washed overboard by a wave while at the crew pool, a theory the Coryums doubted due to the high walls around it. After that, they were taken to a meeting with Disney executives and the woman that Rebecca had apparently been speaking to on the phone. On the day before the first anniversary of her disappearance, her father received an email from a woman who claimed she had seen Rebecca with a dark-haired man on the street in Venice the previous August. The woman said she was 85% sure it was Rebecca, and seeing the family's website had jogged her memory. It was just an email, but it seemed legitimate, said her uncle. It was very upsetting for everyone to think that she could be out there somewhere after all this time. He wondered how she could have got there without her passport, which had been among her belongings that her parents had recovered from her quarters. In October 2011, journalist John Ronson took the Wonder along the same route and made discreet inquiries while on board. With the Coryum's permission, he wrote about it in The Guardian. Several crew members, none of whom wanted their names used, who had been on the ship at the time of Rebecca's disappearance, spoke to him. They suggested that more was known about her fate than Disney or the police had publicly admitted. Many were circumspect. It didn't happen, a bartender told Ronson. You know that's the answer that I have to give. After touring the areas of the ship open to passengers, he decided that Coryum had probably slipped and fallen while jogging on the Deck 4 jogging track. The railings were low enough for the accident to happen, and she regularly kept herself in shape that way. However, the track was well covered by disguised security cameras. He shared this theory with a deck worker who told him he was mistaken. Coryum had, according to him, actually gone overboard from the crew pool on Deck 5. I was on the ship that day, the man said. Everyone knows. He cited a flip-flop found in the area as proof. After the reporter returned, Melissa, a woman who the Coryums had told to contact him, told him that the day after the disappearance, flowers were placed on the wall near the pool, apparently by Disney. It really stirred things up, the woman recalled. Why were they putting them there? Nothing was clear. When he took a look at the crew pool, visible from the fore of Deck 10, he doubted these claims. Around the railings on the pool is a steel wall high enough to completely block any view. Another crew member had told him it was a popular place to go when not working, as their cabins were very small and it was a place crew members could be themselves away from guests. There were conspicuously mounted security cameras as well. Although he allowed that they could have been placed there since the incident, Ronson did not see how anyone could have jumped or fallen from there. Although he allowed that they could have been placed there since the incident, Ronson did not see how anyone could have jumped or fallen from there. But all crew members who spoke with him insisted that Coryum had gone overboard from the crew pool. Disney knows exactly what happened, one said. Everything here is taped. There's CCTV everywhere. Disney has the tape. Near the end of the voyage, another crew member who sought him out explained in further detail that even though the walls around the pool are high, the seas were rough at the time and she could have been tossed off the ship, especially if the deck and walls were slippery. He said a friend of his had to get someone inside in similar conditions, and the offence of being outside on the pool deck in such conditions was serious enough that Disney sent that person home from the cruise. Since Rebecca was not found on the ship despite a thorough search, investigators concluded that she went overboard, possibly as a result of a rogue wave. The Coryums and their lawyer say they never received a copy of the final report as they were promised by the police. British detectives who did receive it have refused repeated Freedom of Information Act requests for a copy on the grounds that it contains restricted personal information. British detectives who did receive it have refused repeated Freedom of Information Act requests for a copy on the grounds that it contains restricted personal information. A crew member told Ronson that the call was taped. Several others believed it was a romantic partner. She was in a relationship and there were problems, and it was upsetting her, Melissa told Ronson. It was a very intense relationship. It was great and then it was awful. I can't think of any other reason why she'd have been upset and wandering around by herself at 6 a.m. However, she says Coryum was on the phone, not with her partner, but with a mutual friend. On the anniversary of Rebecca's disappearance, her parents told the Liverpool Echo that they heard the names of a young woman and an older man on the ship mentioned as possibly being involved in a love triangle with her, and they called for them to come forward. They also disclosed that they heard Disney had sent some additional footage to the FBI for enhancement, but could not say what that footage might contain. They recall her personality as constantly cheerful and upbeat, traits that got her the Disney job in the first place. When her parents visited her quarters after the disappearance, they found passes that she had obtained for them and her sister to visit Disneyland Paris, a gift trip she was apparently planning to surprise them with on her next break home. These plans, as well as her continuing Facebook exchanges with her mother, argue for them against suicide. Melissa, who had last seen Coryum at 11 p.m. the previous night, told Ronson that she believed Coryum went out to the crew pool, one of her favourite places on the ship, to be alone and relax for a while. While there, she might have climbed up and sat on the wall and then fallen. Bex was a bit of a risk taker, she said. However, Melissa was dismissive of the suggestion that the slippers allegedly found near the pool, which were included among the belongings returned to the Coryum's parents, had been hers. Mike and Anne showed them to me, she told Ronson. They were too big. They weren't her style. They were pink and flowery and Hawaiian. I'd never seen her wear them. Why didn't Disney come to me or her girlfriend and say, can you identify these as Bex's? While the Coryums later claimed the flip-flops were too small, they were unable to find anyone on the ship who had seen her wearing them and learned that no forensics had been done on them. In 2016, private investigators working for the family said that they had conclusively established that the footwear did not belong to the couple's daughter. Not only were they not in the style that she would wear, they noted, the flip-flops had another crew member's name and cabin number written on them. The Coryums said that this led them to strongly doubt the Disney's claims that they had been found in the pool area, as well as its theory that Rebecca was swept or fell overboard from there. It was also noted that in the video of the phone call, Rebecca's clothes appear very large. Her friends and fellow crew have speculated that they may have been someone else's. Labour MP Chris Matheson, who has represented the City of Chester constituency since the 2015 election, believes Coryum was a crime victim, possibly murdered or sexually assaulted. The more you look into this, the more it smells rotten. The more it smells like a crime has taken place, he told the Echo the year of his election. He claims to have a copy of the original police report with compelling evidence to that effect. John Anderson, a private investigator who has worked with both the Coryums and Matheson, says the records show the seas around the Wonder were normal that night, casting doubt on Disney's rogue wave claim. He also says that any wave capable of taking her off the ship would have caused visible damage to it as well. Baron John Prescott, former Deputy Prime Minister, has also taken an interest in the case. He believes Rebecca was thrown overboard rather having fallen. He has also called for laws that would allow British authorities to investigate their own citizens' deaths on cruise ships in international waters.
A new clue in the search for the young cruise worker turns out to be recent activity on her credit card. It's one of the few hopeful signs the family's received since she vanished in March. Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Miller is live at the newsroom with new developments in the case and the family's reaction. Leslie.
David, Eyewitness News spoke exclusively to the parents of Rebecca Coryum in Los Angeles last March, just days after their daughter disappeared from the Disney cruise ship that she was working on. Well, today we spoke to Rebecca's father from England, who confirmed for us that somebody has been using Rebecca's credit card. He's hoping this latest development means his daughter is still alive. Rebecca Coryum's mother received an email over the weekend from her daughter's bank reporting recent financial activity on her credit card. The 24-year-old British woman, a Disney Wonder crew member, vanished last March, less than 24 hours after the cruise ship sailed out of Los Angeles on a 7-night cruise to the Mexican Riviera. In a telephone interview from England today, Coryum's father told Eyewitness News this latest development could provide a significant clue in the case of his missing daughter.
It could be that, she's alive. Or then again, it could be somebody else trying to get in the account, or it could be someone trying to get ours. I don't know. It's in the hands. It's being investigated at the moment. That's all I know. We know on that at the moment.
To this point, there has been no evidence of foul play. While there was an unverified claim by another crew member that Coryum jumped overboard, her body has never been found. Her father is holding out hope that Rebecca is still alive, but he admits his daughter's disappearance has taken its toll on the Coryum family.
Well, there isn't closure, and that is the hardest thing. We're both really, well, and all the family, as the weeks go on now, it's really hard on us now, it really is.
We contacted Disney Cruise Line for comment on this new development. They issued this statement, quote, "Over the past few weeks, we have done everything possible to get to the bottom of this situation. We continue to assist the Royal Bahamas Police Force with their investigation and are awaiting their final report. We understand this is a very difficult time for the family, and our thoughts are with them." Disney Cruise Line says its staff searched the ship many times after Coryum's disappearance, and the incident is being investigated by authorities in the Bahamas, where the ship is registered. Disney is the parent company of ABC7.
Magdalena Zuk.
Myszko, powiedz mi, co się stało. Skarbie? Nie bój się, powiedz mi, co się stało, proszę cię. Madziu moja. Aniołku, nie bój się, powiedz mi, co się dzieje. Powiedz mi, nic się nie bój.
صاحبها دول بيهديها بيقول لها اسكن لغايه لما اجي انا بكره فهي شكلها هتهدى وتدخل بقى اللي هو الفندق فاكره ان هي مثلا هتعمل حاجه ولا اي حاجه.
Skarbie, Maciek cię zabierze. Dobrze? Rozumiesz? Skarbie, słuchasz mnie? Skarbie, słyszysz mnie? Myszko, rozumiesz mnie? Pamiętasz Maćka Solczaka? Tego z brodą? Myszko, pamiętasz Maćka Solczaka? Pamiętasz go? Tego z brodą? To on po ciebie przyjedzie. On będzie po ciebie rano. Dobrze? I Maciek się będzie tobą opiekował, nic się tobie nie stanie i on zabierze cię tutaj do mnie. Dobrze? Okej. A powiedz mi, kochanie, a co się stało? Co? Myszko, powiedz mi, coś się tobie stało? Aniołku? Powiedz, nie bój się. Nic to nie zmieni. Powiedz mi tylko, co się stało, żebym ja wiedział, co mam robić. Dalej. Co się stało, myszko? Powiedz mi. Kochanie, nie bój się. Powiedz mi. Maciek już po ciebie leci. Madziu? Mów do mnie, skarbie, nie bój się. Myszko, powiedz mi, co się wydarzyło, co się stało. Powiesz mi? Powiedz mi, kochanie, powiedz mi, normalnie powiedz, proszę. Myszko?
Oni tutaj mają różne sztuczki, zabierz mnie stąd, oni tutaj wszystko robią. Zabierz mnie.
Ale co robią, co robią? Powiedz mi.
Zabierz mnie.
Zabierzemy cię. Maciek już po ciebie leci, ale co oni robią? Kochanie, powiedz mi. Skarbie, nie bój się. Mów do mnie, nie bój się. Kochanie, nie bój się mówić. Słucham? Możesz mówić, śmiało, mów do mnie. Mów do mnie, kochanie, i nie bój się. Słyszysz mnie? Mów i się nie bój. Co się stało? Kochanie, co się stało? Mów do mnie. Zabiorę cię, obiecuję ci to. Obiecuję, jutro rano będzie po ciebie Maciek. Myszko, spójrz się na mnie jeszcze. Kochanie, spójrz się na mnie. Słyszysz mnie dobrze? Słyszysz mnie dobrze? Kochanie, powiedz mi, czy tobie coś się stało? Czy oni tobie coś zrobili? Myszko, powiedz mi, nie bój się. Myszko, nie bój się, powiedz mi. Tak? Tak? Co się stało? Powiedz mi. Myszko. Skarbie, powiedz mi. Nie bój się, powiedz mi, po prostu mi powiedz. Kochanie, powiedz mi, musisz mi powiedzieć, bo ja wtedy zadzwonię tam do ambasady, żeby ktoś miał nad tobą opiekę. Powiedz mi to, proszę cię. Co tobie zrobili? Madziu, powiedz mi. Myszko, ja będę miał na to dowód. Ja to mam nagrywane na drugim telefonie. Powiedz mi, co się tam stało. Nie bój się, tylko mi powiedz. Ja muszę to mieć nagrane. Nic się nie bój, ja się tobą zaopiekuję, obiecuję ci to. Tylko mi powiedz, co tam się stało. Myszko, powiedz mi. Powiedz mi. Nie bój się. Myszko, mów teraz, śmiało. Mów. Ale powiedz mi, co oni tobie zrobili. Tylko to mi powiedz. Kochanie, ja już wszystko załatwiłem. Maciek jutro po ciebie będzie. Nic ci się nie stanie, tylko powiedz mi, co się stało. Ja muszę to wiedzieć. Powiesz mi? Myszko, powiedz mi, nawet jak się stało coś bardzo złego, ja muszę to wiedzieć. Kochanie, powiedz. Kochanie, nie bój się, ja się będę tobą opiekował. Powiedz mi, co się stało. Aniołku, powiedz mi, proszę cię. Nie bój się, powiedz mi teraz. Skarbie. Myszko, powiedz mi, proszę. Skarbie. Myszko. Mów, co się dzieje. Powiedz mi, myszeczko. Ktoś ci coś tam zrobił? Tak? Kochanie, nie bój się. Powiedz mi prawdę, po prostu. Kochanie, ja cię bardzo kocham i to się nic nie zmieni. Tylko mi... Słucham? Kochanie, ja jutro po ciebie będzie jutro po ciebie Maciek, tylko mi powiedz, co się stało. Co się stało? Kochanie, powiedz mi. Powiedz mi. Zabiorę cię. Kochanie, ktoś ci zrobił krzywdę tam? Powiedz mi, musisz mi powiedzieć. Tak? Skarbie. Co się stało? Co się wydarzyło? Powiedz mi, Madziu, i ja to od razu zgłaszam. Ja tam zaraz, Maciek, u ciebie będzie. Powiedz mi to teraz, nie bój się. Ja muszę mieć to na materiale, powiedz mi. Nie bój się, skarbie. Powiedz mi, proszę cię, co się stało. Aniołku. Myszko moja, proszę cię, rozmawiaj ze mną. Powiedz mi, co się stało. Powiedz mi. Myszko, powiedz mi, co się wydarzyło. Ale... Kochanie, musisz mi powiedzieć. Ja muszę wiedzieć. Rozumiesz? Powiedz mi, proszę cię. Słucham? Wrócisz stąd. Wrócisz. Kochanie, co się stało? Powiedz mi, co się stało. Myszko, powiedz mi, nie bój się. Kochanie, powiedz mi, proszę cię. Skarbie, nie bój się. Powiedz mi teraz tutaj do telefonu. Myszko moja. Powiesz mi? Aniołku, powiedz. Nie bój się. Powiedz mi, po prostu powiedz mi, co się wydarzyło. Powiedz mi szybko. No, dawaj. Raz, dwa.
Nie mogę mówić, przepraszam.
Musisz powiedzieć mi, skarbie, proszę cię.
To nic nie da.
Ale powiedz mi, ja to muszę wiedzieć. Ja to muszę wiedzieć, żeby cię chronić, rozumiesz? Powiedz mi, proszę cię. Aniołku, co się wydarzyło? Powiedz mi, musisz mi to powiedzieć. Musisz, wszystko, cokolwiek by to nie było. Powiedz mi, no mów. Mów, myszko. Powiedz mi. Skarbie, powiedz, no śmiało. Już jesteś blisko, powiedz. No dasz radę, powiedz mi, myszko. Cokolwiek by to nie było, musisz mi powiedzieć, ja muszę mieć tą informację. Myszko.
Oni trzymają telefon, ja nie mogę ci powiedzieć.
Ale teraz, normalnie tak jak teraz mi powiedziałaś, tak mi powiedz. Nic się nie bój. Ja mam kontakt z ambasadą, Maciek po ciebie leci. Powiedz mi, co się dzieje. Co się stało, myszko? Powiedz mi. Nawet najgorsze, co by miało być, musisz mi powiedzieć. Powiedz mi. Myszko, muszę to wiedzieć i to szybko. Kochanie, ufasz mi? Ufasz mi, kochanie?
Tak.
To powiedz mi, bo ja chcę cię chronić. Powiedz mi, proszę cię, tylko musisz mi to powiedzieć szybko, teraz. Co się stało? Mów. Powiedz śmiało, szybko, będziemy mieli to z głowy. Co M? Co M? Ten rezydent? Tak? Myszko, powiedz. Tak? Co się stało? Myszko, powiedz mi, proszę cię.
Zadzwonię do ciebie ze swojego najwyżej.
Nie, kochanie, teraz mi mów, bo ja to nagrywam na drugim telefonie, ja to muszę mieć jako dowód. Powiedz mi, proszę cię. Póki jesteśmy na kamerce, powiedz mi to. Myszko, nieważne co się stało. Ja cię kocham dalej całym sercem, powiedz mi, co się stało. Myszko, szybko. Powiedz mi, co się stało. Aniołku, powiedz mi. Powiedz mi, proszę cię. Myszko, ja to muszę wiedzieć. Skarbie, mów do mnie. Powiedz mi, co się stało. Myszko, nie bój się. Myszko. Skarbeczku, popatrz się na mnie i powiedz mi, po prostu. Powiedz mi, co się stało. Powiedz mi. Myszko. Nie bój się, proszę cię, powiedz mi. Powiesz mi teraz? Powiedz mi, nie bój się. Popatrz się na mnie i mi powiedz.
Markus.
Myszko.
Markus. Cześć. Markus. Halo.
No, słucham.
Witam.
Halo?
Wydaj mi to strata czasu. Ja będę dzwonił teraz znowu do ambasady tutaj w Egipcie, dobrze?
No dobrze, a możesz poprosić Magdę, żeby włączyła telefon?
Magda, włączy telefon, bo Markus chce dzwonić do ciebie. Wyłączy twój telefon, proszę. Daj teraz, okej, dobrze.
Tam się coś odjęło.
On the 29th of April 2017, Magdalena Zuk, a 27-year-old beautician from Poland, died whilst on holiday in Egypt. While her death was recorded as suicide, it is technically solved. Many dispute this and believe there was much more to it. Magda had planned the holiday as a surprise for her boyfriend, Marcus's birthday. However, at the last minute he was unable to go as he had realised his passport had expired. Marcus tried to sell the tickets on Facebook, though no one bought them. After learning that her friends were busy, Magdalena decided to fly alone. She landed in Egypt just after midnight on Wednesday the 26th of April. After landing, Magdalena began acting strangely. According to the Independent article, she sent messages to friends back in Poland as if they were on holiday with her and told people she was hearing voices in her room. She was seen shouting down the phone in the lobby, making wild arm movements, and a video from the hotel shows her lying motionless in the doorway to her room, dressed in just a bathrobe. Family received odd texts such as, "Where are you? Come to me." Messages were being sent from the phone of an employee of the travel agency, Mahmoud K. Marcus heard about her worsening state and bought the first ticket he could to get her home, which was on Saturday. The video mentioned just a moment ago of Magda found unconscious in the hotel was taken on the Friday morning. After Magda was found unconscious, staff sent the video to family to show the state she was in. Magda was taken to hospital, however was not treated. Some reports state this was because the hospital did not treat mental health problems, whereas others state that she refused to be treated. A doctor stated that she wouldn't even get out of the car, though there is footage of her walking into the hospital willingly. She does seem to be acting a little strange, however looking slightly disoriented. Eventually, Magda returned to her hotel. She checked out on Saturday morning and travelled to the airport. However, she was apparently not allowed to board the plane due to her erratic behaviour. She was also not allowed to check back into the hotel. She tried to find another hotel, but apparently wasn't able to. From the parking lot of one of these hotels, Mahmoud K video called her boyfriend, the call that we saw at the beginning of this clip. Marcus is clearly trying to get information out of her, however she appears upset and barely speaks, possibly because she is scared to reveal anything in front of the people she is with. When Marcus asks her what happened, she states that she cannot tell him. He pushes and eventually she just says M. Marcus asks if she is referring to Mahmoud, whose phone they are using. Magda does not answer this and says she will call him from her phone. A few seconds later, Mahmoud comes on the screen and begins to talk to Marcus. Magda was taken back to the hospital she had been taken to the day before, and she apparently refused to be examined. There's some debate over what the video shows. For For example, when she gets up, she may have been attempting to jump out of the window across from her or attacking the man in front of it. Magda was eventually taken to a room and tied to a bed using towels. The nurse who was in the room with her untied her so she could go to the bathroom. As soon as she was untied, she attacked the nurse and jumped out of the window onto some concrete steps 2 stories below. She was taken to another hospital but died the next morning. An article mentioning the autopsy states the biological material taken from the woman's body does not indicate that she was a victim of rape. Some have speculated that her boyfriend Marcus may have been involved and possibly sold her into the sex trade. It has been suggested that M in the video call was for Marcus and that Magda pulled away as she said that because she was hinting at him. However, he recorded the call. Surely he wouldn't have made it public if it implicated himself. Also, he did not plan the trip, and apparently he was only aware of the trip 7 hours before departure. He sent a friend out there to bring her home. However, that friend arrived on Sunday morning and Magda was already dead by this point. It has been suggested that Mahmoud may have been involved in what happened to Magda. M could be referring to him. We know that he was there when she made the call, so she probably wouldn't want to give his full name. It appears as though she called from his phone. The way Magda was acting during the call could be interpreted as her being scared to talk in front of the people that she was with. It is also a little odd that Magda often used Mahmoud's phone despite her own phone presumably being usable. She told Marcus on the video call that she would call him back from her phone. And apparently, according to this video call, one source stated that Mahmoud had a reputation for attempting to drug women. Written shortly after the incident, the Independent article states people in Elisa Lam say that he has disappeared and deleted his Facebook account shortly after photos from it appeared in Polish tabloids. However, Mahmoud was questioned by police shortly after and released without charge. Magda may have been drugged, and that may explain her strange behaviour and her being found unconscious on the Friday morning. She had apparently been on the phone to family and said her drink had been spiked. Magda was seen drinking alcohol after she landed in Egypt, and it is possible that someone put something in her drink. Apparently that kind of thing is relatively common in that area. Magda was given tranquilizers when she was at the hospital, though her strange behaviour began before she visited the hospital. Due to Magda's erratic and paranoid behaviour in the days leading up to her death, it has been speculated that she may have suffered some kind of breakdown which led to her acting strangely and eventually taking her own life.
Bezpośrednią przyczyną śmierci Magdaleny Zuk były obrażenia spowodowane upadkiem z wysokości. Na jej ciele nie ma śladów przemocy. To wstępne wnioski z przeprowadzonej w Egipcie sekcji zwłok. Nawet kilka tygodni trzeba będzie poczekać na badania toksykologiczne. Tajemnicę śmierci młodej Polki w egipskim kurorcie bada kilkudziesięcioosobowy zespół prokuratorów, policjantów i oficerów ABW. Paweł Szot.
Zakład Medycyny Sądowej w Kairze. To tu z udziałem polskiego prokuratora i biegłego przeprowadzono sekcję zwłok Magdaleny Zuk.
Na ciele ofiary brak jest śladów świadczących o użyciu wobec niej przemocy. Jednak został pobrany materiał biologiczny, który pozwoli na 100% określenie, czy do takiego zdarzenia doszło, czy też nie.
Najprawdopodobniej w środę ciało kobiety trafi do Polski, gdzie zostanie poddane kolejnemu badaniu. Wśród wątków polskiego śledztwa są m.in. załamanie nerwowe, działalność zorganizowanych grup przestępczych przemycających narkotyki i handlujących ludźmi, a także gwałt. Zagadkową śmierć bada specjalny zespół prokuratorów, policjantów i funkcjonariuszy ABW.
Przesłuchaliśmy kilkudziesięciu świadków. Z tego 55 wniosło do sprawy wiele okoliczności, które w tej chwili są analizowane. Dokonaliśmy szeregu czynności związanego z zabezpieczeniem dowodów.
Wśród powołanych biegłych nie ma psychiatry.
Czasami ludzie tak wpadają w
takie sytuacje lękowe.
Doktor Jerzy Pobocha na naszą prośbę przeanalizował zachowanie Magdaleny Zuk zarejestrowane przez kamery szpitala w egipskim Marsa Alam.
Straciła kontakt z rzeczywistością i zachowania są jej takie, jak występują u ludzi w psychozach. W psychozach, kiedy człowiek ma urojenia, ale również może mieć lęki.
Taką psychozę może wywołać kilka czynników. Choroba psychiczna, środek chemiczny, np. dopalacz, traumatyczne przeżycie albo uraz neurologiczny.
Znam moją siostrę od urodzenia.
Bliscy tragicznie zmarłej i ich pełnomocnik twierdzą, że przed wylotem kobieta nie miała problemów psychicznych.
Nie będę zdradzał żadnych informacji z tego postępowania, gdyż ono jest objęte tajemnicą. Nie możemy niczego zdradzać.
Prokuratura zabezpieczyła dokumentację medyczną ze szpitala w Zgorzelcu, gdzie leczyła się Magdalena Zuk.
Leczyła się tutaj psychiatrycznie?
Nic na ten temat nie mogę powiedzieć. Proszę zwrócić się do prokuratury z takim pytaniem. Jako lekarz i osoba chyba odpowiedzialna nie mogę udzielać takich informacji.
Śledztwo oficjalnie toczy się w sprawie zabójstwa, ale jego kwalifikacja może ulec zmianie w każdej chwili. Paweł Szot, Wiadomości.
Thanks for watching. If you got this far, I actually love you. If you enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up. If you want to support this channel, smash that subscribe button now. What are you waiting for? A massive thank you to the people who have kindly supported my channel, the official ReTV supporters who sponsor this content. You guys are awesome. Peace. You've been watching a ReTV documentary.